Pack your desk. Security will walk you out. The words cut through the break room like a knife. My manager, Derek Sullivan, didn't whisper. He didn't pull me aside privately. He stood near the coffee station, arms crossed, voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "You're done here, Megan," he said, his tone cold and satisfied. "This decision is final." I felt 20 pairs of eyes turn toward me. Coffee cups froze mid-air. Conversations died. Someone's phone clattered onto the table. My face went hot. My hands started shaking. I gripped my coffee mug so hard I thought it might shatter. Derek's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. More like victory. "Security's already been called," he added. "They'll escort you to collect your personal items." I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. My mind raced. What was happening? Why was this happening here in front of everyone? Then I saw it in his eyes. That glint of satisfaction. That hint of cruelty. This wasn't about my performance. This wasn't about company policy or budget cuts. This was personal. He wanted to humiliate me. He wanted everyone to watch me fall. And in that moment, standing there with my entire team staring at me in shock and pity, I realized something important. Derek Sullivan had just made the biggest mistake of his career. That moment, right there in the break room, was supposed to be the end of my story. At least, that's what Derek thought. He probably imagined me crying in my car. Maybe struggling to pay bills. Definitely not finding another job quickly with the black mark he'd put on my record. But he didn't know what was coming. He couldn't have predicted what would happen next. Because this story isn't about how I got fired. It's about what happened after. My manager announced my termination was final. Then compliance opened an investigation. This is that story. My name is Megan Porter. I'm 34 years old, single mom to a 7-year-old daughter named Ruby. I'd worked at Cornerstone Financial Services for 5 years. Started as a junior analyst, worked my way up to senior account specialist. I was good at my job. Really good. My client retention rate was 97%. I brought in over $2 million in new business last year alone. I had commendations, awards, emails from executives praising my work, but none of that mattered to Derek. Because I'd committed an unforgivable sin in his eyes. I didn't worship him. I didn't laugh at his unfunny jokes. I didn't pretend his mediocre ideas were brilliant. I didn't bring him coffee or compliment his golf game. I just did my job. Professionally. Competently. And Derek Sullivan hated me for it. He'd been my manager for 18 months. From day one, I could tell he didn't like me. But I never imagined he'd go this far. Standing in that break room, watching him smirk at my humiliation, I understood something clearly. This was revenge for every time I didn't bow down. Every time I quietly succeeded without giving him credit. Every time I reminded him, just by existing, that competence doesn't require flattery. He'd been planning this, and I'd walked right into it. The favoritism had been obvious from the start. Derek promoted his golf buddies. The guys who grabbed drinks with him after work. The ones who laughed loudest at his stories. Brad got promoted even though his numbers were mediocre. Kyle got assigned the best clients despite losing 3 major accounts. Troy got a bonus for a project I'd actually completed. Meanwhile, I worked harder than anyone. I stayed late, I met every deadline, I exceeded every quota. But Derek barely acknowledged my existence. In team meetings, he'd ask for ideas. I'd contribute something substantive. He'd nod dismissively and move on. Then Brad would repeat my exact idea 5 minutes later, and Derek would light up. "That's brilliant, Brad. That's the kind of thinking we need." I'd sit there, invisible, watching my own work get credited to someone else. Once, I brought in a major client, a pharmaceutical company worth $500,000 annually. Derek announced it at the company meeting. "Great work by the team," he said vaguely. "Especially Brad and Kyle for their leadership." I wasn't even mentioned. When I politely pointed out that I'd been the primary contact, Derek waved his hand. "It was a team effort, Megan. Don't be territorial." But when Brad landed a client worth half that, Derek sent a company-wide email praising him specifically. I learned to swallow the unfairness. I told myself it didn't matter. The work mattered, the clients mattered. But Derek's contempt was building into something worse. And I didn't see it coming. 2 weeks before the firing, everything changed. Suddenly, Derek was watching me constantly. He criticized everything. Things he'd never cared about before. I arrived at 9:01 instead of 9. He sent me a written warning. I sent a detailed email to a client. Too wordy. You're overwhelming them. I sent a brief email. Too short. You're being dismissive. I wore a blue dress. Too casual for client meetings. The next week I wore a suit. You're trying too hard. Nothing I did was right. One morning, he called me into his office. "Megan, I'm concerned about your team player attitude," he said, leaning back in his chair. "I'm sorry?" I said, genuinely confused. I'd helped 3 coworkers with their projects that week alone. "You're not collaborative enough. You work in isolation. It's becoming a problem." "I collaborate constantly," I said carefully. "I just helped Brad with the Henderson account and—" "That's not what I'm hearing," Derek interrupted. "Multiple people have expressed concerns." "Who?" I asked. He smiled thinly. "I can't share that. It's confidential feedback." I left his office shaking. That's when I realized this was a setup. He was building a case against me, creating a paper trail of fake problems. I felt the trap closing around me, but I didn't know how to escape it. So I did the only thing I could think of. I started saving everything. Every email Derek sent praising my work, saved. Every performance review rating me exceeds expectations, saved. Every client thank you note, saved. Every award certificate, photographed and backed up. I created a folder on my personal cloud drive, named it Work Evidence. I went through my entire email history, downloaded everything relevant. Praise from executives, data showing my performance metrics, messages where Derek approved my strategies. One email particularly stood out. From 8 months ago. Derek had written, "Megan, excellent work on the Patterson acquisition. Your approach was exactly right. This is the kind of initiative that makes you invaluable to this team." Invaluable. I screenshot it and saved it 3 different places. I also documented the recent criticism. Every written warning, every vague accusation. I noted the timeline, how suddenly it had all started. I didn't know exactly what I was preparing for, but some instinct told me I'd need proof. Some instinct told me Derek wasn't going to stop with criticism. He was building towards something bigger. I was right. But even with all that preparation, I didn't expect the break room humiliation. I didn't expect him to be that cruel. Looking back, I should have. Men like Derek don't just want you gone, they want you broken. Security arrived 5 minutes after Derek's announcement. 2 guards I'd seen 100 times in the lobby. They looked uncomfortable. "Miss Porter," one of them said quietly, "we need to escort you to collect your personal belongings." I set down my coffee cup carefully. My hands were still shaking, but I kept my face neutral. I wouldn't give Derek the satisfaction of seeing me cry. The walk from the break room to my desk felt endless. I could feel everyone watching, whispering. Some coworkers looked sympathetic, others looked away. Nobody said anything. As we passed Derek's office, I saw him through the glass wall. He was leaning back in his chair, laughing at something on his phone, probably texting Brad or Kyle about how he'd finally gotten rid of me. My throat tightened, but I kept walking. At my desk, I grabbed my purse, my photo of Ruby, and a small plant I'd kept for 3 years. The security guard handed me a box. "Take only personal items, ma'am. No company property." "I understand," I said quietly. I looked at my desk one last time. 5 years of work, 5 years of loyalty, erased in 5 minutes. As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, an email notification from corporate communications. Subject line, "Mandatory compliance review, all departments." My heart skipped a beat. I'd forgotten about that. The email had been sent to everyone 2 days ago. I'd barely glanced at it. Something about routine compliance checks and updated protocols. But now, walking out of the building with my box of belongings, I read it more carefully. Cornerstone Financial Services is conducting a comprehensive compliance review across all departments. This review will assess adherence to company policies, including equal opportunity employment, performance management procedures, and ethical conduct standards. Then at the bottom, employees who have concerns about policy violations, discrimination, or retaliation should report immediately to the compliance department. All reports will be kept confidential and investigated thoroughly. I stopped walking. The security guard looked at me. "Ma'am, we need to complete the exit process." "Right," I said. "Sorry, but my mind was racing." The timing was interesting, very interesting. Compliance review. Retaliation clause. Confidential investigation. I thought about Derek's sudden documentation spree, the manufactured complaints, the public humiliation. I thought about everything I'd saved, all that evidence. An idea began forming. By the time I reached my car, I knew exactly what I had to do. I loaded my box into the trunk, sat in the driver's seat. Then I pulled out my phone and started composing an email, not to Derek, not to HR, to compliance. I remembered the training session from 6 months ago. A woman from compliance had come to give a presentation. I'd been half listening, thinking it didn't apply to me. She'd talked about retaliation, about managers who punish employees for things that aren't actually performance issues. If you feel you've been unfairly targeted or terminated, she'd said, you have the right to report it. We take these claims seriously. She'd given examples. Sudden negative reviews after years of good performance. Public humiliation. Documentation that doesn't match reality. At the time, I'd thought that would never happen to me. I'd been wrong. Now, sitting in my car, I pulled up the compliance department's contact information. I opened a new email. Subject line, wrongful termination and retaliation claim. I started typing. To whom it may concern. My name is Megan Porter. I was terminated today by my manager Derek Sullivan in what I believe was an act of retaliation and abuse of power. I am writing to formally report this incident and request an investigation. I attached everything. The praise emails, the performance reviews, the recent warnings, the timeline showing how Derek's attitude had suddenly changed. I wrote out the pattern, the favoritism, the credit stealing, the manufactured complaints. I kept my tone professional, factual, no emotion, just evidence. When I finished, my finger hovered over the send button. This was it. Once I sent this, there was no going back. Derek would know I'd fought back. He'd probably be furious. But what did I have to lose? He'd already taken my job. I pressed send. I drove home in a daze. Ruby was at school. I had 3 hours before pickup. I sat on my couch, staring at my phone, wondering if I'd made a mistake. Maybe compliance wouldn't care. Maybe they'd side with Derek. Maybe I'd just made everything worse. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Hello? Hi, is this Megan Porter? A woman's voice. Professional, serious. Yes? This is Amanda Wu from the compliance department at Cornerstone Financial. I just received your email. Do you have time to talk right now? My heart started pounding. Yes, of course. Good, I've reviewed your attachments. This is very concerning. I need to ask you some questions, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay, she asked about Derek, about the timeline, about witnesses. I told her everything. The favoritism, the credit stealing, the sudden criticism, the public termination. She took notes, asked follow-up questions. Megan, she said finally, I'm going to be direct with you. Based on what you've told me and what I'm seeing in these documents, this looks like a clear case of retaliation and possibly discrimination. What happens now? I asked. We open a formal investigation. I'll need to interview witnesses, review more documentation, look at Derek's management history. How long does that take? It depends. Could be a week, could be a month. But in cases like this, we typically suspend the manager's authority while we investigate. I felt a small surge of hope. Suspend? He won't be able to make hiring or firing decisions. His access might be limited. We need to make sure he doesn't interfere with the investigation. Okay, I said quietly. Megan, don't talk to Derek. Don't talk to anyone at the company about this. Let us handle it. I won't. Good. I'll be in touch. She hung up. I sat there, phone in my hand, barely breathing. It was happening. Someone was actually listening. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing with text messages. 5 messages from coworkers. I opened them carefully. Megan, what's going on? Derek's badge isn't working. Did you hear? Derek was sent home. Nobody knows why. Something's happening. Compliance is in the building. My hands trembled as I read them. It was real. They'd actually done something. I didn't respond to any of the messages. Amanda had told me not to talk to anyone. Instead, I got Ruby ready for school, dropped her off, and tried to act normal. But my mind was racing. What was happening at the office? What had Amanda found? What were people saying? By noon, I got another call from Amanda. Megan, I wanted to update you. We've suspended Derek's building access while we conduct interviews. We've also begun pulling additional documentation. How is he reacting? I asked. That's not your concern, Amanda said gently. Focus on yourself. I'll keep you informed as appropriate. Okay. One more thing. We'll need you to come in for a formal interview. Tomorrow at 10. Can you make that? Yes, good. See you then. I spent the rest of the day anxious, wondering, hoping. That evening, another text came through. This one from someone I barely knew. An admin assistant named Whitney. I don't know what Derek did, but I'm glad someone's finally investigating him. He's been awful to a lot of people. I stared at that message for a long time. Other people. Derek had done this to other people. I wasn't the only one. The next day, I arrived at Cornerstone at exactly 10. I felt strange walking into the building I'd been escorted out of just days before. The security guard recognized me, looked confused, but let me through when I showed him the meeting confirmation. Amanda met me in the lobby. She was about 40, with sharp eyes and a professional demeanor. Megan, thank you for coming. Follow me. She led me to a conference room. Another person was there, a man who introduced himself as James from HR. We're going to record this interview, Amanda said. Is that okay? Yes. They asked me to walk through everything again. More detail this time. I told them about the favoritism, named Brad, Kyle, and Troy specifically. Described how they got promotions and credit for work they didn't do. I told them about Derek taking credit for my Patterson acquisition. I told them about the sudden criticism 2 weeks ago. Did anyone witness Derek's treatment of you? Amanda asked. Yes, the whole team saw it, especially the break room termination. We'll be interviewing them, James said, making notes. The interview lasted 2 hours. When we finished, Amanda walked me out. You did well, she said. This is helpful. What happens now? We continue investigating. We'll let you know when we have conclusions. I left feeling drained but strangely hopeful. Someone was taking this seriously. Someone was actually holding Derek accountable. Over the next week, Amanda interviewed everyone on our team. I heard about it through the continued text messages. People were being called into conference rooms one by one. They asked me about Derek's management style. They wanted to know if I'd witnessed favoritism. They asked specifically about your termination. The office was buzzing with speculation. Nobody knew exactly what was happening, but everyone knew something big was unfolding. Derek, apparently, was losing his mind. One coworker told me he'd shown up at the building and been turned away by security. He'd argued, made a scene. Another said he'd been calling people after hours, asking what they'd told compliance. Don't answer if he calls you, I warned them. Meanwhile, Amanda kept working. She pulled email records, performance data, meeting notes. She requested Derek's management files, going back 3 years. I knew all this because she called me with updates. Megan, we found some concerning patterns. Derek has had multiple complaints filed against him that were never properly investigated. Really? Yes, 2 previous employees reported similar treatment. One left the company, the other transferred departments. My stomach tightened. He did this before? It appears so. We're looking into why those complaints weren't escalated. What does this mean? It means the investigation is expanding. This is bigger than just your case now. I hung up feeling vindicated and angry. How many people had Derek hurt? How long had this been allowed to continue? 10 days after I filed my complaint, I got a call from Whitney, the admin assistant. Megan, she said, her voice excited. Derek is completely panicking. I overheard him on the phone yesterday. He was talking to someone about lawyers. What did he say? He kept saying, this is all a misunderstanding. She's making things up. I was just doing my job. I felt a cold satisfaction. He was scared. Good. Has he tried contacting you? Whitney asked. No, you? He called me twice that. I didn't answer. Amanda told us not to talk to him. Good, don't. That afternoon, Amanda called me again. Megan, we found something significant. What? Derek altered your performance notes after your termination. My breath caught. What do you mean? Your last 3 performance reviews were all positive. Ratings of exceeds expectations across the board. But after he fired you, he went into the system and added negative comments, changed some ratings to needs improvement. He changed them? I said, my voice rising. After he fired me? Yes, but the system tracks edits. We can see the timestamps. The original reviews were positive. The changes were made the day after your termination. That's fraud, I said. Yes, Amanda said grimly. It is. What now? Now we have proof of misconduct. Clear, documented proof. For the first time since this began, I felt real hope. Derek had been so arrogant, so confident that he'd gotten sloppy, and now it was going to destroy him. The investigation continued for another week. Amanda called me with updates almost daily now. We've interviewed 15 people. 12 of them confirmed witnessing favoritism or inappropriate behavior. 12? I said. Yes. Most were too afraid to speak up before. But now that there's an official investigation, they're talking. She told me about the patterns they'd found. Derek consistently promoted men over equally or better qualified women. He took credit for women's work while praising men for mediocre contributions. He was harsh with women who didn't defer to him and lenient with men who made mistakes. We also found the complaints from the 2 previous employees, Amanda said. One was a woman named Vanessa who reported favoritism. The other was a woman named Tessa who reported hostile work environment. What happened to their complaints? They were filed with HR, but Derek's boss at the time dismissed them as personality conflicts. No real investigation was done. That's insane. Yes, which is why we're now looking at systemic failures in how these complaints were handled. But the biggest discovery came 2 days later. Amanda sounded almost excited when she called. Megan, IT pulled deleted messages from Derek's company account. And there are several messages between Derek and Kyle where Derek explicitly discusses getting rid of you, his exact words. My heart stopped. What did he say? I can't share all the details yet, but one message from 3 weeks ago says, Megan's becoming a problem, too good at her job and doesn't kiss ass, need to find a way to push her out. I felt sick and vindicated at the same time. That's proof of retaliation, I said. Yes, clear, documented proof. The messages were even worse than Amanda initially described. When she sent me the official documentation for my records, I sat on my couch and read through them, feeling my hands shake. Derek to Kyle. Megan landed another big client. Makes the rest of you look bad. Need to knock her down a peg. Kyle to Derek. Just give her bad reviews. Create a paper trail. Already on it. Documenting everything. She'll be gone by month's end. And the most damning one? From 2 days before my termination. Derek to Brad, finally pulling the trigger on Megan tomorrow. Going to do it publicly so everyone sees what happens when you don't play along. She needs to understand she's not special. I read that last one 3 times. He'd planned the public humiliation, deliberately. As a warning to everyone else. I felt rage building in my chest. But I also felt something else. Certainty. Derek wasn't going to walk away from this. He couldn't. The evidence was overwhelming. Amanda called me the next day. Megan, the executive team has been briefed. They're taking this very seriously. What does that mean? It means this is moving quickly now. Derek's suspension is being extended indefinitely. They're bringing in outside legal counsel. Why legal counsel? Amanda hesitated. Because the company is concerned about liability. Derek's actions could expose Cornerstone to lawsuits, not just from you, but from the other women he targeted. Are they going to fire him? I can't say yet, but I can tell you the investigation report will be damning. She paused. Megan, how are you doing? This is a lot. I thought about it. I'm okay. I'm angry, but I'm okay. Good, stay strong. This is almost over. 3 weeks after I filed my complaint, HR made an official announcement. Derek Sullivan had been suspended without pay pending the outcome of the investigation. The announcement didn't mention my name, but everyone knew. My phone exploded with messages. Oh my God, Megan, Derek's been suspended. Did you report him? Everyone's saying you did. Thank you. Seriously, thank you. That last one was from a woman named Paige, who'd been on my team for 2 years. I called her. Paige, what do you mean, thank you? Derek sexually harassed me last year, she said quietly. Nothing physical, just comments, inappropriate jokes. I reported it to his boss and nothing happened. I thought about quitting, but I need this job. My stomach dropped. Paige, I'm so sorry. Don't be. You did something. You stood up to him, and now maybe things will actually change. When I hung up, I felt the weight of what I'd started. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about everyone Derek had hurt, dismissed, or pushed out. 2 days later, Amanda called with another update. We've completed the interviews. We're now drafting the final report. When will it be done? Next week. And Megan, it's going to be thorough. Derek's not coming back from this. Good, I said. And I meant it. The final report took 8 days to complete. I didn't see it, but Amanda gave me a summary over the phone. The investigation substantiated your claims of retaliation, wrongful termination, and abuse of power. It also uncovered a pattern of discriminatory behavior toward female employees, manipulation of performance records, and deliberate acts of professional sabotage. What does substantiated mean exactly? I asked. It means we found clear evidence supporting everything you reported. Derek Sullivan violated multiple company policies and potentially employment law. What happens now? The report goes to the executive team and legal counsel. They'll decide on disciplinary action. When? Soon. Maybe within 48 hours. Those 48 hours felt like forever. I kept checking my phone, waiting. Ruby noticed. "Mommy, why do you keep looking at your phone?" "Just waiting for important news, sweetie." "Good news? I hope so." Then on a Wednesday afternoon, Amanda called. "Megan, it's done." "What's done?" "Derek Sullivan has been terminated, effective immediately." I sat down hard on my couch. "Fired?" "Yes, for cause. His benefits are revoked, his severance is void, he's been escorted out of the building." I couldn't speak. "Megan? Are you there?" "I'm here," I said, my voice shaking. I can't believe it." Believe it. The evidence was overwhelming. The company had no choice. "What about me?" I asked quietly. Amanda paused. "What do you mean?" "I was fired. Is there anything?" "We need to talk about that," Amanda said, "but not over the phone. Can you come in tomorrow?" The next day, I met with Amanda and two executives I'd only seen from a distance. Patricia Hayes, VP of Human Resources, and Walter Nguyen, Chief Operating Officer. They sat across from me in a conference room, looking serious. "Miss Porter," Patricia began. "First, I want to apologize on behalf of Cornerstone Financial. What happened to you was unacceptable. We failed you." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "We've completed our investigation," Walter continued. "Derek Sullivan has been terminated, but that doesn't undo the harm you experienced." "What are you offering?" I asked directly. Patricia slid a folder across the table. "We'd like to offer you reinstatement, full back pay from the date of your termination, and a promotion to senior team lead in a different department, reporting to a different director." I stared at the folder. "A promotion?" "Your performance record is exemplary," Walter said. "You deserve recognition for your contributions, and frankly, we need leaders with your integrity. We're also offering a formal letter of apology," Patricia added, "and we're implementing new policies to prevent this from happening again. Mandatory bias training, better complaint procedures, oversight of management decisions." I opened the folder. Everything they described was there in writing. "I need time to think about this," I said. "Of course," Patricia said. "Take as long as you need." But as I walked out of that building, I already knew my answer. Derek had tried to destroy me, tried to humiliate me out of this company. Instead, he'd destroyed himself, and I was being offered everything he'd tried to take from me, plus more. I called Amanda that evening. "I accept." That same night, my phone rang from an unknown number. I answered cautiously. "Hello? Megan?" Derek's voice, broken, desperate. "Please, we need to talk." My stomach tightened. "No, we don't. Just listen, please. I made mistakes, I know that now. But this is destroying my life. I have a family, a mortgage, I can't." "You should have thought about that before you tried to destroy my life," I said calmly. "I wasn't trying to destroy you. I made bad decisions. But you didn't have to report me. We could have worked it out." I felt anger flare. "Worked it out? You fired me publicly. You humiliated me in front of everyone. You altered my performance records. You planned it all." I was under pressure. The executives were breathing down my neck, and you were making me look bad. "I was doing my job," I interrupted. "That's not making you look bad. That's just me being good at what I do." "Megan, please, if you talk to HR, tell them it was a misunderstanding." "It wasn't a misunderstanding, Derek. It was retaliation. It was discrimination, and it's over." "You're ruining me," he shouted. "No," I said quietly. "You ruined yourself." I hung up. He called back immediately. I blocked the number. Then I sat on my couch, hands shaking, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Part of me felt guilty. He was a human being. He had a family. But another part of me, the stronger part, remembered standing in that break room. Remembered the smirk on his face. Remembered the fear of not knowing how I'd pay my bills. He'd shown me no mercy. I didn't know him any either. I started back at Cornerstone 2 weeks later. My new department was on a different floor, different team, different director, a woman named Veronica who had a reputation for fairness. My first day back felt surreal. People congratulated me. Some apologized for not speaking up sooner. I should have said something, Brad told me quietly. When Derek took credit for your work, I knew it was wrong. It's okay, I said. No, it's not. But I'm glad you're back. Veronica called me into her office that afternoon. Megan, I want to be clear about something. I've read your file, I know what happened, and I want you to know that won't happen here. No more. Your work will be recognized, your voice will be heard. Thank you, I said. I mean it. I've seen what you can do. I'm excited to have you on my team. Over the next few months, I settled into my new role. I led projects, mentored junior analysts, brought in new clients, my ideas were implemented. My name was on the work I did. For the first time in years, I felt valued. 6 months after Derek's termination, the company held an awards ceremony. I received the Excellence in Leadership Award. Standing on that stage, accepting the plaque, I thought about the break room, about Derek's smirk, about security walking me out, and I thought about how far I'd come since then. Not through revenge, not through anger, through evidence, through truth, through refusing to accept injustice. That night, I got a message from Paige. Congratulations, you deserve this. Thank you for fighting back. It changed things for all of us. I smiled and put my phone away. A year after everything happened, I ran into Whitney at a coffee shop. Megan, she said, hugging me, how are you? Good, really good. You? Great. Hey, did you hear about Derek? My stomach tightened. No, what about him? He's working at some small firm now, way below what he was doing at Cornerstone. Word is nobody in the industry wants to touch him after what happened. I didn't know how to feel about that. How did people find out? I asked. Professional networks, people talk, and honestly good. He shouldn't be managing people. She was right. But I still felt a strange emptiness hearing it. Are you okay? Whitney asked, seeing my expression. Yeah. I don't like seeing anyone suffer, even him. That's because you're a good person, Whitney said. Derek never worried about who he hurt, but you do. That's the difference between you two. When I got home that evening, I thought about what she'd said. Derek had been so focused on power, on ego, on crushing anyone who threatened him. And in the end, it had destroyed him. Meanwhile, I'd focused on truth, on evidence, on standing up for what was right, and it had rebuilt me. I looked at Ruby doing her homework at the kitchen table. Mommy, she said, what are you smiling about? Nothing, baby, just thinking about how lucky I am. Lucky how? Lucky to have you. Lucky to have a good job. Lucky to know my worth. She looked confused, but she smiled back. Someday, when she was older, I'd tell her this story. I'd tell her what I learned. That standing up for yourself isn't easy. That doing the right thing can be scary. But it's always worth it. The company continued implementing changes. New bias training became mandatory. Anonymous reporting systems were established. Management oversight increased. And I was asked to help develop some of those policies. We want your perspective, Patricia told me. You experienced the system's failures. Help us fix them. I joined a task force on workplace equity. We reviewed complaint procedures. We interviewed employees about their experiences. We created safeguards to prevent managers from retaliating against reports. It was hard work, emotional work, but it mattered. One day, a young woman named Iris approached me after a task force meeting. Miss Porter, can I talk to you? Of course, and please call me Megan. I just want to say thank you. What you did, it made a difference. My manager was treating me like Derek treated you, but now I know I can report it. I know someone will listen. My eyes got wet. Did you report it? She nodded. Yes, and they're investigating. Good, don't back down. I won't, you showed me I don't have to. After she left, I sat in my office for a long time. This was what mattered, not revenge, not even justice for me specifically, but changing the system so fewer people would suffer what I'd suffered. That was the real victory. 2 years after Derek's termination, I was promoted again. Director of Client Relations, a position I'd never imagined I'd reach. I had a team of 12 people, a budget, real authority, and I used it differently than Derek had. I promoted based on merit. I gave credit where it was due. I listened to my team. My client retention rate was 99%. My team's morale scores were the highest in the company. People wanted to work for me. One afternoon, Veronica called me into her office. "Megan, I want to tell you something. When we hired you back, some executives were nervous. They thought you might sue, might make trouble." "I never wanted to make trouble," I said. "I just wanted fairness." "I know. And that's why I fought for you. Because I knew you'd do exactly what you've done. Make this company better. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for proving me right." That night, I took Ruby out for dinner to celebrate. "Mommy got promoted," I told her. "Again?" she said, grinning. "Again. You're really good at your job. I try to be. And you're really nice to the people who work for you." I smiled. "That's important too. My teacher says being nice is more important than being smart." "Your teacher is wise." As we ate, I thought about everything that had brought me here. The humiliation, the fear, the anger, but also the courage, the evidence, the refusal to accept injustice. All of it had led to this. 3 years later, I barely thought about Derek anymore. Sometimes I'd remember the break room, the smirk, the security guards, but it didn't hurt anymore. It was just a memory, a part of my story. I'd built something better, something I was proud of. My team respected me, my clients trusted me, my daughter saw me succeed. That was enough. One day, I got an email from Amanda Wu. She'd left compliance and moved to another company. "Megan, I wanted to reach out. I'm doing a presentation on workplace investigations and their impact. Would you be willing to share your story? Anonymously, of course." I thought about it, then replied, "Yes. If it helps others, yes." A month later, I sat in on her presentation via video call. She talked about my case without using names, about how one employee's courage to report misconduct had led to systemic changes. "The outcome was significant," Amanda said. "The company overhauled its complaint procedures, implemented better oversight, and promoted the employee who reported the misconduct to a leadership position where she's now creating the kind of culture that prevented her situation in the first place." After the presentation, someone asked, "What happened to the manager?" "He was terminated," Amanda said simply. "His career in that industry effectively ended." "And the employee never sued?" "No, she didn't want money, she wanted justice, and she got it." When the call ended, I sat quietly. I never heard from Derek again after that desperate phone call. No apology, no explanation, just silence. And honestly, that was perfect, because I didn't need his apology to move forward. I didn't need his acknowledgement to know my worth. I'd learned something powerful through all of this. You don't have to scream to be heard. You don't have to fight fire with fire. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is document the truth, stand firm in your integrity, and let the evidence speak for itself. Derek tried to bury me. Instead, he buried himself. And I rose higher than either of us ever imagined. That's not revenge. That's justice. And it's sweeter than anything revenge could ever be.